We're learning today Nishmas Ahuva Basak Mesachos Kerisus Parakei Mishnah Ches. So this is the last Mishnah in the series of Mishnayos that have to do with the three machlekes. We said the Tanakama, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Yosi. Mishnah Ches says Chaticha Shel Chelev, Chaticha Shel Chelev Noiser. You had two pieces in front of you. One was Chelev, which would be Mechayev a Chatas if you ate a b'shegeg, and one was Chelev and Noiser, which would be Mechayev you a Chatas, two Chatos, one for Chelev and one for Noiser. So the Mishnah says, Ochal es achas mehem, ve'ini yadu ezem yanach. If you ate once, you were vade over a chatas. The shaylos, if you were over two more chatas, so maybe chatas v'asham tali. You bring one chatas and an asham tali for the other two averes. Like we said before, one asham tali is good for both averes. Ochal es hashniya. Now that you eat the second one, maybe shalish chatos. So now you have to bring three chatos because you were over three averes of chatas, two of chelev and one of noiser. Let's say ochal echad es harishonu ba achar v'ochal es hashniya. One person ate the first and the other one ate the second, so each one was vadei over a chatas. The shaila is who was over the second chatas. So that may be chatas v'asham. This is the three machlekes. Tanakama says that may be chatas v'asham toli, that may be chatas v'asham toli. Each one for sure brings a chatas, and each one also has to bring an asham toli for the suffix of the second avera. Rabbi Shimon Yomi zeh chatas. Each one vadei brings a chatas that he agrees to. But you don't have to bring each one Asham Tali, rather together, Shnei Meviyim, Chatas Echad. They could bring together one Chatas because they were and Bitnai, if I was the one that over, then I'll bring it, and if not, then it's you that's bringing it. Like we said before. Yaisi Omer Kol Chatas Shiba Al Chet, Ein Shnai Meviyim Oyser. Yaisi Shita always is that there's no Tanai in Karbonis, and therefore you will not be able to make this Tanai. Rashi is Medayik from the Lashon that says Kol Chatas Shiba Al Chet. Ain't Shnai Mevi and I said that Rabbi Yosi will be maskim by a chatas of a yeledes, which is not Mevi al chet, could be brought b'tanai. There's two gemaras on this Mishnah. One kasha is that what about the isser of hektish? So if we're talking about noiser, then it's obviously hektish. So you were also moil. So the Gemara says that we're talking about the less be shava pruta. There's no shava pruta. As the Gemara says further, that it's talking about a daka, it was a small piece, or it was b'mois hachama. And Rashi explains in the b'mois hachama, once it's already 2 days old, so then it's going to be misreches the basar noiser. It's gonna be bad, and therefore it's not going to be worth a shava pruta. So the iser meila is not noigeya over here. The Gemara asks another kasha on Reb Shimon specifically. That Reb Shimon says over here that he's maskim to like the Tanakama that there would be a iser noiser and chelev on the same piece. But we know Reb Shimon holds that ein iser chal al iser. The Gemara L'maisa comes out that by kodshim gali rachmana the asi iser v'chal al iser. That by kodshim there's a special gzeres hakosav that you say iser is chal al iser. Why? Because the pasuk says asher la'Hashem l'rabbis es eimurim. Eimurim we know are iser chelev, and yet we say it could be chal on it another iser of meila. So the Achronim asks a question. It's brought over here in the Mishnayos. One of the Achronim that asked it is Rabbunim Eger, who's the brother of Rabbi Akiva Eger, asked that how can you bring me a raya that Meila is chal on chelev? So hu adin noiser is going to be chal on chelev. Noiser and chelev are both iser achila. So maybe over there you don't say one's chal on the other, but over here Meila is iser hana. So the iser hana should be a iser moisif to be chal on the iser of chelev. So what's the raya? Then the Rabbunim Eger blives with a tzarechiyun. Perek vav Mishnah Aleph Hamevi Asham Tali. Let's say someone brought a Asham Tali v'noidaloi shalechet, and he finds out that he didn't do the avera. So it turns out he didn't have to bring a carbon. The Gemara says in Abraisa, who adin if he would find out that he did do the avera, so he's not supposed to bring the Asham Tali, rather he's supposed to bring the Chata. So the question is, what's the status of this Asham Tali that l'chayr shouldn't have been brought at this point? So the Gemara says there's 3 stages, and it depends at which stage you found this out. Im ad shaloi nishchad, if you found out before the shechita that you weren't supposed to bring the Asham Tali, so it wasn't even shechted, so then there's a machlekes. Yaltzav yer be'edeh divrei meir. Meir holds that it's chulin, basically, and therefore it's you just put it with your regular flock. The Gemara says, or Meir holds kiven doli tzarech le loy makdish le. If you didn't need it originally, so he never would have been makdish it in the first place. And the chachamim mayim yira ad sheyistav v'yimacher v'yiplu dama v'nadav. You have to wait until it gets a mum, and then you sell the animal, and with its proceeds you buy an oilas nadava. And Gemara says that the Chachamim hold mitoch shaliba noikfai goymer umakdish. So when he was mafresh the carbon, he was afraid that maybe he did an aver, and therefore he had in mind to give this carbon even if what came out at the end of the day that he didn't need it. And now that at the end of the day you don't need it, the halacha is Meiser Asham, the leftovers of Asham goes L'kayit HaMizbeach. Taisus brings down Meiser Asham is L'kayit HaMizbeach. The third shita in the Mishnah is Rabbi Eliezer Omer, and this is Rabbi Eliezer L'shitasa. We're going to learn in Mishnah Gimel, holds that Yaakov, you could bring it even now as an Asham Talish. Because even if he didn't do this Aveir, but Mistama, he may have done another Aveir. And Rabbi Eliezer shita is that Misnadev Adam Asham Tali B'chol Yom. And the Gemara explains a little bit further that in Rabbi Eliezer there's really two shitas, because on our Gemara it's mavur that it has to be that you came through an Aveira originally, that he thought he did an Aveira, then it was Noidul Leichat. So then even the second shita in Rabbi Eliezer is going to hold that you could bring an Asham Tali Al Yidei in this situation. So that's the first stage. The second stage is in Misha Nishchat Noiduloi, if after the Shchita he found out that he didn't have to bring the Asham Tali, so then there's no purpose in the carbon anymore, so the dam is yishafech. You have to pour the dam out. And you have to burn the basar. So the hainu, even according to Remeir in the first case where ad shalei nishchat was yetzev yer be'eder, that it was chulim, but once you already shechted it, then it's yatzel lebeis hasreifa. In the next mission, we'll discuss why beis hasreifa as opposed to Kfura. And the third case is Nizar Kadam, if you found that only after the Zrika, so then the carbon was brought by kasher, so there's nothing wrong. Abasa Yachal, you could eat the basar. Rabbi Yosi Omer, he adds even more, Afila Hadam Bekoisi Zarek V'habasa Yachal. Even the blood that's in the kais, we say, Kol Omer Lizik Zarek Dami, and you could eat the basar. As Rashi explains that since Kol Omer Lizik Zarek Dami, it's as if he was noida after the Zrikas Hadam, even the blood that was not done Zrika on yet, and therefore the carbon Ashar Tali was brought because Shrusa, and you're allowed to eat the basar.